All right, strap in, everybody. We're diving deep today. You sent in this lecture called The Immortal Within, and it's going to seriously shake up how you think about, like, well, everything.
Really makes you wonder what's real, right? Like it suggests maybe all our ideas about life and death and what humans are capable of, maybe they're just wrong.
So right off the bat, this lecture says, you listening right now, you have massive untapped potential. It goes into this whole thing about how we're not just, flesh and blood, but we've got this soul thing going on, like a spark of some bigger oversoul.
Yeah, it uses a video game analogy, which is kind of cool. Think of it like this. The oversoul is the game itself, right? And each of us, with our individual soul, we're like a player going through life after life in this like super intricate game world. The lecture calls it the construct.
Okay, so the construct is kind of like our reality as we see it. But the lecture says, hold on, maybe it's actually a simulation, like a super well-made one, or even like a holograph, you know?
And to back that up, it points to things like, haven't you had déjà vu? That feeling you've done this before. And the Mandela effect, like where tons of people all misremember the same thing about the past. The lecture saying, maybe those are glitches, like hints that there's way more to reality than what we see.
Now, get this. It talks about these things called informed fields. Basically, they're like energy fields, super concentrated, and they're created by our thoughts and what we focus on.
It's this wild idea that our thoughts, they're not just nothing just floating around in our head. They actually can change stuff, shape our experience.
So instead of being like pawns in the game of life, we actually have the power to change the game.
Exactly. And get this, the lecture gives personal stories as examples. Like the speaker talks about manifesting books while in prison, just by like concentrating on them and doing these little rituals.
Hold on, so this isn't just theory. The speaker actually claims they did this.
Yeah.
The lecture says they attracted specific people and opportunities the same way, which, that's pretty wild.
Right. Makes you think about what we're truly capable of.
I gotta say, hearing the speaker's own experiences really adds to this. They talk about feeling like they were detached from the world, like watching from outside, and having these crazy mental journeys through time and space.
Sounds like they're tapping into something deeper, something most of us just aren't aware of.
So we're not talking about some abstract philosophy here. We're talking about someone who's saying they felt this stuff, experienced it. Make those claims even more intriguing, don't you think?
For sure. And it all ties into this big emphasis the lecture puts on imagination.
It's like that what you think you become
Yeah,
thing, right? Our self-image actually shapes the reality we live in.
exactly. The lecture saying imagination is the key to unlocking all that potential and literally shaping your world. Picking up on that construct idea, that simulated reality thing, the lecture goes on to talk about the soul's journey. Like we as souls, we go through life after life, right? And with each one, we grow, we evolve.
So each lifetime's like a chapter in this much bigger story of like our soul's development.
Yeah, exactly. And within that, the lecture talks about this default programming that keeps us stuck inside the limits of the construct.
You mentioned that earlier, but for anyone listening who's like, what's default programming? Can you break that down a bit more?
It's like all those unconscious beliefs, thought patterns we pick up, from society, how we were raised, maybe even past lives. It's like pre-installed software running in the background, shaping how we see things, what choices we make, and we don't even realize it.
So kind of like we're on autopilot, just following a script someone else wrote.
That's it. And the lecture says this default programming, that's what stops us from reaching our full potential and ultimately from breaking free from the construct altogether.
So if this programming is holding us back, how do we, get rid of it?
Well, the lecture says the first step is being aware of it. We got to become conscious of those beliefs, those patterns running on autopilot in our lives. Once we see them, then we can start questioning them, right? Like, are they even true?
So it's like becoming the programmer of our own minds instead of letting the default software run the show.
Exactly. And once you start questioning those old beliefs, you can swap them out for ones that, empower you.
Okay, that makes sense. But, how do you actually reprogram yourself? Sounds kind of tough.
It gives some tools for that.
Yeah.
It really stresses how powerful our imagination is. Focused intention and actually doing something. It's about choosing what thoughts you let in, what you believe, and the actions you take on purpose.
And so it's not enough to just, think happy thoughts. You got to actually do stuff that rewires your brain, backs up those new beliefs.
Right. The lecture even suggests things like affirmations, repeating positive statements, visualization where you picture yourself living the way you want, and practicing gratitude to shift your whole perspective.
So it's like we're tuning our minds to a different frequency, one that matches the reality we want.
Good analogy. And as we do that, as we break free from that default stuff, the lecture says we actually start to see reality differently.
Things start changing outside as we change inside.
Yeah, it argues that what we experience out there, it's a reflection of our inner world. So if we change our beliefs, how we see things, well, our experiences start to reflect that change.
That's kind of heavy, puts a lot of responsibility on us.
It does. But it also means we have a ton of power. It's saying we're not just victims of circumstance, we're the creators of our own reality.
So it's like a call to step up, take control, and shape a reality that matches who we really are.
Exactly. And that leads to another big idea from the lecture, this collective apocalypse thing.
You said before that's one possible future for humanity. What's that all about?
Well, it suggests there's this, crossroads coming up for everyone. On one path, the people stuck in default mode, their reality is going to fall apart. It's not like a literal end of the world, more like their illusions crumbling.
A harsh wake-up call for folks who haven't started questioning things.
Yep. But the other path, it's this transcendent exit from the construct. It's waiting for people who've woken up, realized their potential, and broken free from all that limiting programming.
So it's like reality splitting in two. One group clings to the old way, the other group stepping into something totally new, bigger.
The lecture uses that video game idea again. Some players stay trapped inside the game, others find a way out beyond the game itself.
Whoa, powerful imagery. Really makes you think about what's at stake.
And the point is, the lecture says it's our choice which path we take. We can stay stuck in the limits of the construct, or we can wake up, realize what we're capable of, and create something amazing.
All right, we're back. Final part of our deep dive into this Immortal Within lecture. We've gone pretty far down the rabbit hole here, talking about simulated reality, the power of our thoughts, all that default programming stuff.
Right, and now it gets down to brass tacks. This last bit, it's all about how we actually use these ideas, break free from those limits in our own lives.
So anyone listening who's feeling kind of stuck or like they're on autopilot, this is where the good stuff happens.
It keeps saying we can change our reality, but it starts by changing what's inside, our beliefs, how we see things.
You were saying before, what we experience out there reflects our inner world. Can you unpack that a bit more?
Okay, imagine this. Your beliefs are like lenses you see the world through. So if those lenses are all foggy with negative thoughts, limiting beliefs, well, the world's going to look like a tough place.
But if we, polish those lenses by changing our beliefs, then everything looks different.
Exactly. And the lecture gives us tools to do that. It says, question everything you think you know, challenge those stories you tell yourself, and choose beliefs that lift you up, not hold you down.
So more than just thinking happy thoughts, it's about really looking at your beliefs, deciding which ones you want to keep.
The lecture even suggests things like affirmations, those positive statements you repeat. It's like reprogramming your mind.
Replacing the bad self-talk with something better.
Yeah. And there's visualization, too. Picture yourself living the way you want to live. Feel it, see the details, make it real in your mind.
Kind of like creating a blueprint in your head for what you want to build in your life.
And it says you got to really believe it, feel it strong, not just daydreaming, but really knowing it can happen.
So thoughts, feelings, beliefs, got to line them all up with the reality you want.
Right. And as you do that, the lecture says the world outside will start to match.
Like we become magnets for the things we believe in.
Exactly. And don't underestimate gratitude either. Focusing on what's good in your life now, that attracts even more abundance.
So it's not just wanting more, it's appreciating what you've got already.
And then gotta take action.
Yeah.
Can't just think and visualize, gotta do stuff that moves you towards your goals.
To put those new beliefs to work, actually make things happen.
It says to see challenges as opportunities to grow. Embrace the unknown and trust the universe has your back as you step into your full potential.
Sounds like we're being invited on an adventure, right? Where we get to decide what reality we want to create.
That's the spirit of it. And in the end, it's a message of hope, empowerment. We can all do amazing things. We've got the power to break free, build a life we love, and make the world a better place.
This deep dive has been, well, mind-blowing, to say the least. We've explored, what is reality, how powerful our minds are, the potential each of us has, and for all of humanity. I hope this has given you, the listener, some stuff to think about, maybe even inspired you a little.
Been great exploring all this with you.
And to everyone listening, don't stop here. Keep questioning, keep challenging those old beliefs, and don't be afraid to tap into that incredible power you have inside. You are literally the architect of your own reality. Build something amazing. And hey, if you found this deep dive worthwhile, share it around. Let others in on the adventure. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.